Hey, today's topic for discussion is actually focusing on a little bit on the transformation side, Ladders, wherein the transformation could be with the new tools which is in and around the digital governance, the way the technology, AI, Gen AI features are actually shaping the world and more particularly the economies. It is important and imperative that we understand that how you as a board member should operate when it comes to a specific terminology called digital governance, because day in day out you must be facing or you're going to face it in your upcoming roles, that there are transformations happening and which comes with its own challenges, risks involved. How effectively you should be managing those risks, that is critical. And in order to manage those risks, I mean, one of the prime aspect is like there has to be a governance layer, a strong governance layer, an understanding of that governance layer, which is something we're gonna cover today. That is one. And then the second part of transformation is which is around uh, the traditional transformation ways. Perhaps any organization which is what looking forward for any sort of restructuring, realignment or reorganization, which broadly categorized under the M&A, the merger and acquisition bucket. And there could be multiple ways to do those restructuring realignments. But at the end, what perhaps we wanted to achieve is some sort of a transformation. So what we thought, we bring these two topics together, wherein like a transformation based on technology and the transformation based on the traditional M&A ways. Perhaps what is your preparedness as a board member when it comes to these topics per se, and when you as a board member are going to deal with those situations, perhaps what are those uh, important aspects which you should definitely keep in mind. So that is something perhaps which is what we have in store today. Next 85-90 minutes, perhaps we're gonna focus on these two aspects. We'll spend a little extra time on the digital part because that's quite trending, and there are a couple of nuances associated with it. So the large part of our today's session is going to focus on digital governance, and then we will be touching base the M&A readiness part as well. From a coverage standpoint of view, as I mentioned, these are the two things what perhaps we're going to cover today. I have two of my colleagues here on the call, Madhura, who's going to speak about the digital governance, and she will explain you like the nitty gritties, practical experience, and how the world is shaping towards digital and what kind of governance layers we need to bring in. That is something Madhura will cover in. And then we have the M&A readiness piece, which is what being covered by my colleague Kirat, who is there on the call. So that's the journey going to be. I'm anyways there. I'll keep on sharing my point of view, the practical experiences, the discussion which we typically had with our clients, perhaps when it comes to this situation. Feel free to reach out. I mean, raise your uh, uh, hand, and I mean, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box, or maybe you can unmute yourself, raise those questions. We are happy to answer them, and let's make it more interactive, conversational, and see like together what is there in the store today, and perhaps what we achieved together today. So with that, Madhu, I'll just hand it over to you. Just start with the digital governance piece, and as I said, let's keep it interactive and see like what best we can take out of it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you to all the participants for joining in. It's a privilege to speak to such a distinguished group of professionals today. So, my today's talk will not be a lecture, but a two-way conversation, which is fast-paced, practical, and highly relevant to the world we operate in today. So, we are not just talking about technology. We will discuss about how leadership governs technology when the stakes are high, especially in mergers and acquisitions. So let me start with a quick pulse check-in in the chat box. What comes to your mind when you hear the word digital risk? There are no right or wrong answers here, just your instincts. I just want to learn from the learners that what comes to your mind when you hear the word digital risk.
And it's quite interesting, learners. Like before we really get into the piece, like what is digital governance, how you can protect yourself. It is important to know like what kind of risk you are exposed to. So yeah, feel free to add your inputs in the chat box. breach of cybersecurity and its consequences, loss of data. Yeah. Anything beyond cybersecurity, learners, because while we're talking about digital, it is actually way beyond. And this is what we're going to cover in our subsequent slides as well. But if you have any thoughts around beyond cybersecurity, please feel free to add in the chat box. So the participant who just joined, our question is like, what comes to your mind when you hear the word digital risk, data security? Yeah.
Great, great responses. Thanks again for your responses, learners. Keep those words in mind. We'll come back to them later. So before we deep dive, let's align on what's in store for today. So first we'll look at digital governance. I'll explain what digital governance means, why it is important, and the key risks and benefits involved in it. So we'll also discuss how global digital regulations are evolving and how they impact the board's role in oversight. Next, we'll cover cybersecurity governance. This includes understanding global cybersecurity trends, and most importantly, we'll explore how organizations can stay protected in a constantly changing threat landscape. Then we move into AI and emerging digital risk, where we will touch upon what responsibilities the board has when adopting or supervising AI systems. And finally, we will discuss mergers and acquisitions. So imagine yourself today that you are in a flight journey. Digital governance is our foundation, cybersecurity is our seatbelt, AI and digital risk is our turbulence, and M&A is the landing zone where everything gets tested. So, which of these four excites or worries you the most today and why? Let me know in the comments as well. Is it digital governance? Is it cybersecurity? Is it AI and digital risk and M&A as well? What excites you or worries you the most? All. Yes, of course.
No, but Madhura, just
Yeah.
wanted to give a little more context. Landing safely, Jyoti. Very nice. Thank you so much. So that's what we want. I mean, all of you land safely in this zone. But again, I mean, there could be different perspective here because I mean, depending upon the organization in which you operate or you're gonna operate, there could be different priorities as well. I mean, say, few of the organizations has a certain level of maturity already being achieved when it comes to digital governance or cybersecurity governance, but they are very new to say the aspects of AI and Gen AI, right? At the same time, there could be they could have a robust team available handling the whole M&A piece for them. But when it comes to really enabling those M&A with the digital governance aspects, things are pretty new to them. So the situations could be very different. So my request to the learners here would be like go little deeper in that and look at it from your individual perspective. While I know all of them are important and critical, and that's the reason we have kept it on the slide also for you. But what do you think could be the most important one, perhaps, which is really impacting you today or could have impact you?
Digital governance.
Digital
Okay.
governance, AI. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Madhura, you can pick it up.
Sure. Great, seeing these responses and different view of the learners as well. That's exactly what boards look like too, and which are diverse perspectives. So coming to the next slide, as organizations continue accelerating their digital journeys, leaders today are faced with a rapidly expanding set of risks. These risks include cyber breach, AI misuse, data privacy failures, vendor tech services. Cyber breach, to explain more in detail, remain one of the most immediate and visible threats. Attacks are becoming more sophisticated, frequent, and more targeted. A single breach can shut down operations, damage customer trust, and result in a huge financial loss for an organization. And for decision makers, the challenge is not just preventing attacks, but ensuring we can quickly detect, respond, and recover from that specific attack. The second is AI misuse. Leaders must think about responsible AI frameworks, transparency, model audits, and ensuring humans stay in the loop as well. The third being data privacy failures. Today's customers are extremely cautious about how their data is collected and used. Any mishandling, whether accidental or intentional, can lead to regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. So, the challenge for decision makers, for example, the board here, is establishing strong data governance, compliance with evolving regulations, and embedding privacy by designing all digital initiatives. The fourth is vendor tech services. Here, organizations rely heavily on third party vendors for everything from cloud services to cybersecurity tools. So, the decision makers must ensure strong vendor risk management, dependency mapping, and continuous monitoring of external partners. So, what ties all these challenges together is the need for strong digital governance. As we move forward, it's essential for leaders to identify which of this risk is most critical for their organization because that will influence priorities, investments, and governance frameworks for the entity. So, just a quick question, out of these four, which one resonates the most with you today and your organization? So, which actually keeps you awake at night as a decision maker? You can put your responses in the chat box quickly.
So, learners, please excuse us for this initial few slides. We really wanted to have that pulse check so that we're very clear that what is what is most impacting you, and accordingly we can spend our time on those areas. So this is very critical to know where you are and what exactly impacts you more. And I mean, just to add what Madhura mentioned, if you feel like anything over and above these four line items, what is being presented on the screen, if you have anything in your mind which is what could be a cause of concern for you, please feel free to add in the chat box. We are happy to spend time on that as well. And at the same time, I mean, if you feel that while these four terminologies are there and it has its own color and shape, few of them is what we are witnessing it first time. Please acknowledge that fact also, that this is what we never imagined could be a risk for us. So that we are very clear like where we are in terms of our acceptance and resilience, and accordingly can have the way forward plan for that.
More of cyber breach coming in, data privacy failures, of course.
A quick
Financial
question.
cost to the
Are
business.
vendor tech services, sorry, maybe I missed your point, but why is it a digital challenge today?
Mother, do you want to come in here?
Sure. So basically, vendor tech services are based on the organization, what kind of organization tools are you being used by the organization. So some organizations use very high-end tech tools which are not specifically acknowledged by the employees as well. And plus, the vendor tech services are managed by employees in-house as well as the vendors. So that is the main reason where, as an organization has to make a decision whether we have to actually put in our efforts in no, giving the knowledge to the employees on how actually these vendor tech services have to be taken care of. Even a third party audit is also really required here just to maintain that vendor is using the proper and quite good technology for the organization.
So, Archana, if I can add to it, this is one of the areas where we are witnessing a lot of queries coming in from our clients, because in this whole era of like having multiple tech solution providers available in the market, and you know how the platform companies are transforming themselves to a professional services firm, and at the same time, professional services firm are trying to make alliances and getting into platform mode. This has caused a major disruption in the market in terms of like who is my right vendor, and I mean what kind of do's and don'ts I should definitely keep in mind when selecting any vendor, because it has at the end those are the tech platforms which is what going to help us in our day in day out functioning. So am I selecting what I'm supposed to be? Is it something going to be really useful for me? What are my long term to short term strategies around it? And how I'm going to really take benefit out of it? And one important aspect which Madhu also touched upon, how those tech solutions are going to get gel with my existing ecosystem, my employees, my customers, vendors, etc. That is again is a part of the larger diligence exercise to be performed. And that's the reason we thought it is important to bring this as one of the aspect, which is what considered as a challenge for couple of companies.
Okay, thank you. Hmm.
So, just to summarize, learners, digital governance exists to control all. It's about the impact it creates. We don't govern because we don't trust people, but we govern because the impact of digital failure is no longer small. And that brings us naturally to our first core topic, which is digital governance from paper to pixels. We have moved from physical boardrooms to virtual board portals, manual approvals to e voting, locked cabinets to cloud storage. Governance has moved from papers to pixels quite literally, but many mindsets haven't. Mindsets, specifically, when I say mindsets, it means that the technology has been so advanced that the employees or even the organization has not put forth the exact amount of effort into giving the knowledge, right knowledge to the employees. If we ask ourselves today that how many of our approvals happen digitally versus physically, majority of us will say digitally, and hence digital is now the default and not the exception. This shift demands a new form of governance, which brings us to the meaning of digital governance. Digital governance is a framework of policies, processes, roles, and responsibilities that guides how we use tools, manage data, and make decisions. But here's a very powerful line: it's not just about IT, it's about trust, innovation, and risk protection as well. In today's digital first environment, organizations heavily depend on technology, data, and online platforms. But simply adopting digital tools is not enough. What we need is a structured approach that ensures these tools are used effectively, securely, and responsibly. This structured approach is also known as digital governance. This slide explains three things: what digital governance means, where it applies in an organization, and who is responsible for making it work. It has four key pillars: policies, processes, roles, and responsibilities. Policy sets the rules, processes ensure consistency, roles clarify who does what, and responsibilities ensure accountability. The goal is not to make sure that the organization uses digital tools effectively. It also ensures that it remains compliant with the regulations as well and protect itself from risk that cyber threats or data misuse. Where does it apply? So, digital governance is not limited to IT departments, as we all know. It applies across the entire organization. So, at the top level, the board uses digital governance through digital board portals, e voting tools, and virtual meeting platforms. These systems ensure secure collaboration and transparent decision making. For regulatory compliance, companies must comply with several digital regulations like MCA 21, Stock Exchange Digital Filing Platforms, ESG dashboards, GDPR, and XOX reporting, etc. Digital governance ensures these regulatory processes are followed consistently and accurately, reducing compliance risk. The third is internal digital operations. This includes tools used internally, such as digital contract management systems, procurement portals, AI based risk monitoring tools, cloud storage solutions, and ERP systems. And lastly, the public facing channels as well. Everything a company displays to the public, whether it's website, investor relation platform, and social media accounts, all comes under the digital governance framework. Coming to who is responsible for setting the overall digital strategy, the board is the only responsible person. They approve major technology decisions and monitor whether the organization stays compliant with digital regulations or not. The chief information officer, that is the CIO, and the chief digital officer, CDO, leads the actual implementation. The Chief Information Security Officer ensures cybersecurity, manages digital risk, and handles incident response. The compliance and legal teams ensure all digital activities comply with legal and regulatory requirements, whether it's data privacy, reporting standards, or any digital record keeping as well. So, I want to ask learners today, in your organization today, who do you think who truly owns digital risk? Is it the IT? Is it the legal? Or is it even the board? Let me know your comments in the chat box. Board are the main ones. Archana
And
says board.
And I think, Mathura, this is while I can see comments coming in around board, but it will be good to share a perspective that while board is responsible, and you're absolutely right on that, that look, since board is ultimately taking decision, approving all digital strategies, you as a board member are responsible for monitoring digital risk, ensure compliances. But do you have enough safeguards in place which actually helps you to say that how you have to deal with your CIO, CDO, or a CISO or a legal team? Do you have enough of that knowledge, awareness of those programs and SOPs, policy structure? Please do comment around that, because that is again quite critical. Because one way to look at it is like sitting in a boardroom, you are deciding on certain matters, giving consent. But second is like when you are actually getting deeper and understanding those functional roles, responsibility, and then opining, deciding on those things. So it's quite critical. Wanted to understand where we stand in terms of our awareness. Is it something just a board approval, or it is a holistic point of view? And that's the reason, like when we say things like policies, processes, roles and responsibilities, accountability framework, DOAs, all of that plays an important role, because that chart out a clear plan, a roadmap for a board member, that if a certain set of transactions or activities happening more around digital and technology transformation, what could be the role and responsibilities of different teams getting involved in that? So anyone would want to share any experience here? Maybe if someone want to unmute and share experience, like how practically you are dealing with this situation. And if we are saying that this is the bar that you should have those policies, processes, framework in place, and that brings a digital governance and structure, where do we stand and how are we really handling this situation at present? Okay. Uh, the silence means we want to be there on the chat box, not on the. Okay, I can see there are a few comments more coming in. Both sets of policy and define the strategy, but management execute. Yeah, that's fair point. Yeah,
Hi, Shikhar. Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to give. It's not
yeah,
about your question and answer. It's about
yeah.
like in the last three classes, like 3 or 4 classes, what I have seen that we are not encouraged to talk in between, and there is no conversation happening. And this is the first time that we all have got to know that we can also talk. So I really appreciate that this is happening. Interaction is happening this way. This is much better way to actually do rather than doing. We were always told that put everything on the chat and chat and chat, and there's nothing much, no interaction and conversation was happening. So this is the first time. That's when nobody actually is
No
actually
worries.
talking
No
on the
worries. That's
audio.
fine. Thanks for this
Yeah,
feedback, Seema. And actually,
yeah.
what we also uh, uh, I mean recognize internally, that in order to make it more interactive, it will be good if we provide an opportunity to the learners, that if we can interact, have a discussion, share experiences, that will help us to make it more conversational and at the same time more insightful also. So point taken. Maybe subsequent sessions, anyways, you guys will be prepared, and perhaps we can have more conversations around it. But yes, point taken, Seema.
So we tried actually. I also spoke many time in my first classes. And anyways, thank you so much. It's quite a relief this way. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Seema. Perfect. So point taken, learners, and maybe next session onwards we'll try to make it more interactive. But here, I mean, again, the format is not that. I mean, asking questions and providing answers. I just wanted to make it quite clear to everyone that this is more like sharing experiences. More and more experiences we'll share with each other. Perhaps we'll get into more insightful conversation. So, like in our one of our batches, we were having a conversation around like how you look at it as a board member, and one of the learners just came up with his point of view and experience that look, I know my responsibility in terms of like approving those agenda matters, and I do a lot of homework when I have to approve any of those matters sitting in a boardroom. I have a team also who helps me preparing all the paperwork, etc. And I'm very cognizant of this fact that these are the critical matters if it's coming to the board. But I really don't have a clear visibility when I'm dealing with the core functional aspects of my CISO or a compliance team or a CIO or CTO. And I mean, this gives me a good eye opener that perhaps if I have a clear SOP in place, that any matter coming to the board will be supported by a note from a CISO office capturing the technical aspects of it, and maybe a debrief just prior to the board meeting. That will actually help us to make a more robust decision. And that's what we are talking about. That's what the whole governance aspect is. So, I mean, I'm just sharing the experience what we got from one of the learners in the previous batch, and there are many more. So as we move along, I'll try sharing those experiences, perspective here on the group, and feel free to add, chip in, like if you are able to resonate to any of those situations or anything new in your mind. Happy to talk, happy to chat on those topics.
Thank you, Shekhar. Moving on to the next slide. Now that we know what digital governance is, let's see the pillars that hold it up. So think of this slide like the five fingers of a hand. Remove one and the grip weakens.
Madhur,
First
I'm
is
really
policy and
sorry.
compliance. Yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
sorry, Madhur. I think Anil has a
Yes,
question here.
yes,
You wanted to ask
absolutely.
something.
Yes, Anil.
Yes, Anil, please.
Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. So I hope I'm audible, Shekhar.
You are audible, Anil. Yes.
Okay, so I just have a one quick question, Shekhar, is that you mentioned that the board, and that is what we are learning over the last three sessions, that the board mainly responsible for strategy, approval processes at the very apex level. But for
Yeah.
this particular cybersecurity and the data, my just one query is that how board monitors how the things are getting implemented, because I think it is not just about strategy, but I think the implementation and its execution also plays an effective role, and that's the
Yeah.
crux of the things most of the time. So what kind of a visibility that the board has when it comes to the implementation part of the cybersecurity or the data strategy which it's decided and it approves it? So you could just
Yeah.
throw some
See,
light on that, Shekhar.
certainly, Anil, and it's a very valid question also what you asked. Perhaps when I really look at it more from a overall journey standpoint of view, actually speaking, your role will not get over only by deciding on that matter. Up till you really get into the whole execution implementation part of it and actually seeing the results coming out of it for your organization. So that's the whole journey. So absolutely valid point, and it's not only limited to digital. While digital could be a little more complex because it's keep evolving. There are new things coming in day in day out. I mean, things are transformative in its own. So digital is a very different game, but yeah, it applies to all other areas also. The best way forward to really look at implementation, Anil, would be like if we have a continuous monitoring plan. While it start with building the SOP itself. Like if I have a SOP in place which says that the moment board approves, there has to have a regular cadence at say 30 days or 60 days or in sort of an action taken report, which is what has to be presented to the board that okay, these are the things has been taken up, these are the results, perhaps these could be the next action item. Those sort of ATRs are typically being recommended, and we have seen many of our clients following that practice. That is one, which actually derive from the SOP part itself. Second could be the whole monitoring plan. Like I mean, while it all depends like the flexibility you get in your organization and how deeply you are engaged at a functional governance level also, it varies case to case basis. But still, if there are certain sort of monitoring plans approved at a board level, which is what being agreed that at a regular cadence these are the monitoring plans which has to be reviewed as a status update coming to the board, and basis that board is going to decide modify changes so on and so forth, that can also help you in having the implementation plan more robust and structured in your organization.
Thanks, Shekhar. But my understanding is that typical board meetings happen once in a quarter before actually the results get declared,
Yeah.
at least by the public sector companies or the public limited
Yeah.
companies, maybe a
Yeah.
reality also for the private limited companies, right? So, in
Correct.
terms of monitoring, I mean, is there a mechanism, for example, if there is a kind of a breach of the cybersecurity or something like that, it immediately gets triggered to all the board members? Is that a kind of a mechanism is placed in the organization, specifically when it comes to cybersecurity and a digital infrastructure and all these technology areas are concerned? Because
I,
what I saw in a chatbot is that the cybersecurity committee is not mandatory as such, as in
yeah,
the case of audit committee, right? So how it gets
yeah,
monitored and ensured that the practices are getting followed, what board has
yeah,
decided at apex level, Shekhar?
yeah. So if I answer this point, Anil, maybe see it's not feasible to take it on a real time basis to the board members because imagine a situation where we talk about a large listed company, 10 board members, and perhaps
Mhm.
in order to get their time all together, that's the reason the frequency is typically, as you rightly said, quarterly, once in a
Yeah.
quarter, you convene those meetings. Then in that case, the whole this the thing which actually plays an important role is your management layer, like who is being
Mhm.
responsible. And so how it starts is like board strategize, uh, put certain controls, and then delegate those controls to the management layer. Management layer has to have regularly monitor those, and that's the CXO layer perhaps which I'm just talking about. That CXO layer has to monitor it on a regular basis, and if there are any exceptions, so that's the third layer perhaps what we are witnessing in many of our other clients, is like where there is an exception, that reporting can always happen to the board. That need not necessarily to be coming up in a board meeting only, perhaps in the form of a
Okay.
note if it is getting circulated as an exception report. That
Mhm.
that can also work, and which gives an alarm to the board that okay, there's a need to call resolution by circulation, for example, to urgently pass a particular matter. Those sort of things perhaps could be the good checks, which is what we are witnessing in the market.
All right, Shekhar. Thank you. I think this is quite helpful. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Sure, let's go ahead. Coming to the pillars of digital governance, the first pillar is policy and compliance, which focuses on establishing clear digital policies that align with laws and regulations. So, this covers areas such as data privacy laws, cybersecurity regulations, digital record keeping rules, and technology usage guidelines as well. The second pillar is data governance, which is all about managing data responsibly and securely. So it involves ensuring data quality, protecting sensitive information, defining data ownership, and settling access controls as well. The third pillar is cybersecurity, which deals with protecting the organization from digital threats. This includes proactive defenses like firewalls, monitoring tools, and security protocols as well as reactive measures such as incident response plans. The fourth pillar is technology oversight, which focuses on ensuring that emerging technologies like AI, cloud services, and IoT are used responsibly and align with business objectives as well. The final pillar is ethics and responsible use. It focuses on preventing bias in AI systems, protecting users' rights, and promoting digital practices that support diversity and fairness. So now let's answer the most important question, why digital governance matters. Now that we have covered what digital governance is, its key pillars, the next question is why does it even matter? Why should organizations invest so much time and efforts, even cost, into building a digital governance framework? So this slide summarizes the major benefits. The first being digital governance builds help, trust, and transparency both internally and externally. Investors, regulators, or even customers gain confidence in the organization's data and processes. The second major benefit is risk reduction. As organizations become more digital, they face threats such as cyber attacks, data breaches, and IT system failures as well. It becomes easier to detect vulnerabilities early and respond quickly when any incident occurs. The third important factor is faster decision making. In a competitive environment, speed of decision making is a major advantage. Another critical reason is compliance. Organizations today must meet multiple digital regulatory requirements. This reduces the risk of penalties, legal challenges, and reputational damage as well. So, digital governance also strengthens digital transformation initiatives. Many companies invest in new system or tools, but without governance, these tools don't align with strategy and become fragmented or underutilized. Governance ensures all these digital initiatives support business objectives and move in a unified direction. Other benefits include improving efficiency, reducing duplication of effort, streamlining operations across departments, and so on and forth. Now, let's bring everything together with real world life scenarios. To understand the value of digital governance in a practical context, this slide presents real life scenarios where weak governance caused major failures. So, for each scenario, we look at the lessons learned and the strategic recommendations as well that organizations should adopt. Scenario 1, which was a large scale data breach operation. So, in this case, a major data breach exposed millions of personal records because of weak system maintenance and outdated controls. The result was huge penalties, loss of customer trust, and long term reputational damage for the organization. The key lesson is that strong embedded governance must be part of every digital initiative. Security, data monitoring, and compliance cannot be optional or added later. Organizations may establish a digital governance council that has the authority to oversee data protection, cybersecurity, and system maintenance. Scenario 2 is where there was a nationwide healthcare IT transformation failure, and the failure was caused by unclear requirements, weak governance structures, and long delays. So, what we learn from here is the importance of balancing central governance standards. Too much centralization slows innovation, and too little leads to inconsistency and failure. In the third example, a public sector payroll system upgrade resulted in massive cost overruns. This happened due to poor vendor oversight and weak control mechanisms. Organizations should invest in automation tools that support compliance, monitoring, reporting, and vendor management as well. Another scenario is AI and ethical issues. Although not stated as a separate scenario, many organizations today face ethical challenges with AI system such as biased algorithms or privacy concerns. The lesson is that privacy and ethics must be built into AI governance from the start. To address this, companies must embed ethics and training across all digital teams. To conclude, overall, these real life examples highlight how weak governance leads to failures, whether in security, large IT programs, vendor management, or AI ethics. And this is why digital governance is not optional, it is a strategic necessity now. So let me take back you to the very first question I'd asked. What comes to your mind when you hear the word digital risk? And now here's a very better replacement phrase, digital readiness. Because governance isn't about fear, it's about preparation. So I'll begin with a simple story. Imagine an organization that buys the latest digital tools. It has AI dashboards, automation, cloud platforms, but somehow everything still feels slow, risky, and chaotic. Employees are confused, policies lag behind, and the boards keep hearing the words data breach a little more often than they'd like to. And that's exactly what this slide captures. The four big digital governance challenges organizations face today. First is organizational resistance. This is a classic, we have always done it this way mindset. Employees fear losing control, leaders resist standardization, and repeated transformations leave everyone exhausted. The second is rapid technology evolution. These technologies move faster than policies, frameworks, and sometimes even our imagination. The third is regulatory complexity. Ever changing global laws, compliance burdens, documentation mountains, and penalties. They are levied even if you misinterpret even one clause. And lastly, data and cybersecurity issues. This is where everything becomes real breaches, insider risk, poor data quality, and ransomware. So, I want to ask the learners today which of these four buckets is the biggest challenge your organization faces today? And it can be even out of these four or any of actual challenge which you are facing today, your organization is facing. Please feel to drop down in the box.
So, learners, I mean, the slide is being prepared basis our interaction with couple of leaders. Like when we spoke to them and understand, like when it comes to the implementation of digital governance, what kind of challenges they have typically faced, and we've got a couple of feedbacks from our different cohorts as well. Largely, we have seen people somewhere like facing challenges around 1 and 3, which are the major highlights what we have witnessed. But according to us, I mean, all four holds the equal weightage because again, it depends on the type of organization in which you operate, and the challenges could be very different. But uh, it would be great to know your thought process also, that where you stand in terms of, let's say, if you are in a journey of implementing that digital transformation, where do you stand, and is it something correct to say that yes, these are the typical challenges what you face, or you have anything else in your mind which could be perhaps we can add in the slide that say this is another challenge perhaps which typically the board members are facing. And any one of you would, again, my apologies for this piece. I mean, we should have given this heads up in advance, but any one of you would want to share any experience also, because in our last cohort we have got a couple of good discussions around how the organizational resistance is like playing a critical role while we all are talking about AI first mindset and the digital first at a functional level, operational level, strategic level. But I mean, still there are organizational resistance in terms of implementing, and there could be many challenges around it. It could be pertaining to the challenges which we hear and could come from a leadership team at a global level, or it could be certain domestic challenges also. So I'll be happy to hear from you guys if there are any perspectives around it. And I can see Serge is here if I'm pronouncing it right. Serge, you want to share something experience here?
Yeah, I think 1 and 3 are really the big categories that are frustrating. Two is rapidly evolving with AI being added to the mix of threat tools. It's increasingly, it's quickly becoming a concern. But organizational resistance, I find, is the biggest challenge to digital governance. Not that people don't believe they need it, they don't believe they need as much, or when they see the price tag, or even like I've worked in gaming for a good number of years, and there's a lot of regulatory compliance, right? Like Italy has different rules than France, than Estonia, and so you've got to adapt the system in every region. And some regions have very different rules. Like,
Yeah,
Italy needed servers on site that talked to the government, while France was more relaxed about it. And like,
yeah,
you've got to morph your system at every step. And when it's compliance like that, you don't really have a choice. You want to play in that region, you must comply. So it's easier to get past organizational resistance, although being a tech, the organizational resistance is what's the minimum I need to do to meet the
yeah,
compliance rules to move on. But even in some cases, like the most recent example I have, last year in July, the UK put out a age ID verification regulation for adult content. And one of
yeah,
our sites had adult content, but because the revenue would impact revenue negatively,
yeah.
the executive team decided to not turn it on. We built it. It was
Yeah.
there, but they chose to accept the risk of let's just wait it out and see. So like that organizational resistance has many faces.
Okay. No, I completely echo with you, Serge, what you said. And this is very important aspect which you touched upon. Somewhere, the organizational resistance has a dependency and getting a color of regulatory complexities also. And this is what exactly you were explaining. So that is one of the reasons. And that's the reason I said 1 and 3 goes hand in hand. We have a lot of time we have witnessed that because of regulatory complexities, organizations are not able to take those decisions. Or if they are taking decisions, those are like either cost not cost effective or could have other larger impacts also. So yes, these are the things. And but at the same time, while regulatory complexity is one part of it, Serge, what we are witnessing, things like the low digital literacy, right, and the mindset basically, while I mean now there's a complete shift happening across industries, but still that mindset of being consistent on the processes which is being followed previously from so many years, that is again one of the reasons perhaps which we are witnessing. So yeah, I echo with you what you said.
Hi,
Someone else?
Shikhar. So, yeah, can
Yeah,
I?
Seema. Yeah,
Yeah.
please go on.
So, as Sajid says quietly, and you also said it, very true. In media industry, I come from the media industry, and the thing that I feel right now when I'm doing this emerging technologies and AI course, also along with it, the first most important thing is that in Indian media industry, we don't have any AI policy in a sense, like we do a lot of Gen AI work
Yeah,
for the content generation and everything is happening all around. But the major thing is coming when we, inside the industry, we get very confused. Okay, this comes under policy, this doesn't come under the policy. What is the regulation? What is the compliances? It's so
yeah, yeah,
complex. And we
yeah.
don't have any guidelines, we don't have any compliances, no check mark, and the thing and it's not only Indian industry. I believe that whatever comes in from the Al Jazeera and
Across.
other kind of big news channels or the legacy media, we
Yeah,
all are facing the same thing. So we
yeah,
call ourselves as AI ready. The big organizations talk about it, and they do showcase their AI kind of a generation and how AI ready they are. But the point is, at the end of the day, we all are struggling with AI policy. So we don't have it, no regulation. I don't know when, if I would have been on the board at this point of time, if I have to feel this way,
yeah.
whether my organization or my industry or any of this organization, are they in a position to actually formulate or do these kind of things? And the most important thing when you talk about risk and this risk and security, of course, there are a lot of AI generative media content that we are struggling, fact checks are happening. But since we don't have any policy, so we don't have any regularity and no, nothing is there on the record. So I believe this is one my take from the media industry on this.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Seema, for sharing this. This is really insightful, and I will actually bucket it under regulatory complexity again. It is very sector specific, and fortunately, unfortunately, the sector which you picked upon, and it's like there are lack of regulations certainly, but at the same time, I mean, I would say while these sectors are continuing operating this way, and there are larger reasons behind, I mean, how the regulations are being drafted, but in this whole wave of how we are transforming ourselves from the niche uh, technology to say a AI and Gen AI solution based approach, I would say there would be a couple of centralized guidelines, perhaps, which we're gonna witness quite quite early, and that is going to help a lot of a couple of sectors, because when we have those centralized guidelines available, that will help us to have those policies and structures framed more appropriately. So I can only say that it's a wait and watch situation, but the things are progressing and in a positive direction, and we hope to see those results coming in soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we actually had a good discussion on the regulatory complexity, and I mean I can summarize that this is it's a pain across countries, and as Serge mentioned, Seema mentioned, this is absolutely one of the areas which again resulting into organizational resistance. It has a flavor of rapid technology evolution also, like because many of the time when we have to have the policies in place, and the topic per se is quite evolving, when like every now and then you are finding something happening in the world which is impacting you at a larger forum. So the rapid technology evolution again causing a concern. Other day when we were having a conversation, it was like, what is our take on that? It's like, okay, you strategize, okay, and try implementing the best you can. So somewhere the situation is in control, but at the same time things are a little beyond control also. So more and more we strategize, more and more we add layers, more and more we put those structures in place that will help us to be compliant at all time. That is what the whole ask is at this point of time. But I agree, echo with the group here, that this is something which is quite evolving and may have different challenges to come in. So we thought we tried jotting down a couple of those challenges in front of you. Maybe in the subsequent slide we're going to cover aspects around how we can overcome these challenges too. Perhaps that can help you and give you a perspective that, okay, these are the things perhaps we should have in place. So that's the whole summary of this slide, learners. Thank you so much for your contribution. Yeah,
Yes,
over.
coming to the next slide. As we move from challenges to solutions, let's zoom into what really builds a digitally mature board. Again, I would want the learners' participation here. Here is a quick puzzle piece, six puzzle pieces here: transparency, efficiency, cybersecurity, ESG reporting, board portals, and AI dashboards. Now, imagine you are designing a future-ready board for your own company. Which three would you pick? What are your top three puzzle pieces, basically? And you can just put your answers in the chat box.
Yeah, this is quite interesting, learners, because again, this linked up to your whole strategy part of it. I mean, what are those top three things? And you can put it in the order of priority as well. Like first, you want to do. I can see constant 10 saying cybersecurity, transparency, and AI dashboard. So please feel free to add in the chat box what could be the possible combination you can think of could have been a better situation to handle the overall impact. Yeah, 1, 3, and 6. Okay. Can I say that like the cyber security is on top of the chart, followed by uh, say could be transparency and other things, but either transparency or cybersecurity always remain on top of the chart. And if I can add a little more perspective here, if I have a transparency and efficiency in place, perhaps the rest of the modules around board, ESG, and all, it will be auto-driven. More is like we as a board member, we have to bring in that transparency and efficiency in the structure. Will that be a fair take? So I'm just leaving these thoughts with the group here. Um, and as we move along, we'll talk more how it is going to impact you and what is the best strategy here. Because as I said, there's no right and wrong in this situation. It is more like in which situation you are and how you wanted to make it more effective for you, knowing the nuances in which you deal with. But just leaving few thoughts for the benefit of everyone here.
Sure. Let's take this forward. Thank you, learners, for your responses. The next slide dives into the threat that ranks highest across industries. Now that we know what matters to a digitally strong board, let's talk about the elephant in the server room, the cyber threats. So think of this slide as a choose your villain moment. Every organization faces multiple digital villains, from phishing to ransomware to supply chain attacks. So, what do you think is the single greatest cyber threat to your organization today? Is it ransomware, insider threat, cloud misconfiguration? It can be anything. I just want the learners to address their specific cyber threat which their organization is facing today.
And at the same
Please.
time, Madhu, I think we can publish those results also because while
Absolutely.
yeah, because it will be quite interesting to understand um, like where we stand in terms of a market study coming up to those different threats which is being witnessed by many of our clients and otherwise.
Sure. So here's what the world is worried about. This slide highlights the top cybersecurity threat organizations are facing today based on the global survey data. Uh, cloud threat, Cloud-related threats top the charts, followed closely by attacks on connected products, third-party breaches, and quantum computing threats. Cloud threats are the number one concern, with 33% of organizations ranking them in their top three. Next are attacks on connected products, IoT devices, smart sensors, and connected machinery. These devices often have weak security, making them easy targets for attackers to enter the network. And this is especially relevant for manufacturing, healthcare, and critical infrastructure industries. Third party risk is another major concern. Vendors and partners often have access to sensitive systems, and a breach in one of them can expose your organization as well. Quantum computing is an emerging threat because it could eventually break traditional encryption methods. Social engineering again remains a long standing threat. Phishing, impersonation, and manipulation of employees are still incredibly common. Software supply chain compromise is at 23%. Hack and leak operations ranked at 21%. Ransomware and employment infiltration both at 20%. And rest amount to less than 20%. So the attacks are industry specific, geography specific, and maturity specific as well. And this brings to us to the next slide what both struggle with when managing these threats. Just like we earlier saw digital governance challenges, this slide zooms into cyber governance challenges specifically. So, cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue, it's a board level risk that affects business continuity, brand reputation, and regulatory compliance. Let me walk you through the four to five core challenge areas. The first is limited cyber capability at board level. Many board members lack deep cybersecurity and technology expertise, which limits their ability to understand the technical risk involved. This prevents the board from asking the right questions or challenging the management effectively. The second is rapidly evolving and complex threat landscape. The threat environment is changing faster than ever, and AI enabled cyber attacks and are increasing. Sophisticated ransomware are increasing. Even campaigns are increasing. The third is regulatory and compliance pressure. Laws evolve faster than the organizations can sometimes adapt, and boards face today high compliance and reporting burdens as well, with regulators demanding more accountability. The cost of non compliance is high both in terms of financial penalties and reputational damage. The fourth is weak preparedness, culture, and accountability. Many organizations still lack adequate cyber incident response and recovery readiness. There is a lack of clear ownership and accountability for cyber risk, making it unclear who is responsible when any incident occurs. The fifth is strategic and enterprise risk integration challenges. Cyber risk is still not always treated as a strategic priority. It's often viewed as an IT issue rather than enterprise issue. So altogether, these challenges show that board needs stronger cyber literacy, better processes, and tighter alignment between strategy, technology, and risk management. I'll show you some real life scenarios where organizations have faced cyber threats recently. Here are five real world scenarios where phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, and supply chain compromises have happened. We begin with the most common entry point phishing and business email compromise or BEC. While not new, these attacks are becoming exponentially more sophisticated, often leveraging AI to craft highly convincing personalized emails. To give you a recent example, a large IT service company recently suffered a phishing led breach. These attacks succeed by enabling remote system access and financial fraud. They exploit the most vulnerable ring, that is the human trust. So, what can be the key takeaways from this? Email authentication technologies and rigorous user awareness training are no longer optional, they are critical first lines of defense. Next, we have ransomware. To give you a real case study, a defense manufacturing company was recently hit by this. Attackers didn't just encrypt the data, they first stole extensive data and then threatened to leak it on the dark web. This puts immense pressure on the organization, forcing a decision between paying the ransom or paying the regulatory fines, reputational damage, and competitive harm from the data leak. Third, and a major headache for organizations today, is the supply chain attack. Another real life scenario was when an airline technology service provider was compromised. This exposed customer login credentials for a primary airline. The key takeaway here is that a third party cyber risk must be actively monitored and not merely assumed. The fourth point highlights the future of social engineering, AI enabled threats. In a recent case, AI generated fake executives were used in video calls to manipulate an employee into transferring funds. This threat requires shifting our focus on financial approvals. We must move from over reliance on trust based personal interactions to control based systems with multi factor authentication for financial transfers and dual verification protocols that cannot be bypassed by voice or any video impersonation. And finally, we address the pervasive challenge of the cloud, which is misconfiguration and shadow IT. In a recent case, again, a financial service company recently suffered a massive data breach not because the cloud was insecure, but due to misconfiguration and weak access control policies. So, to summarize, these five sectors demonstrate that modern cyber defense requires a holistic strategy encompassing technology, people, and governance. So, we must strategically invest to strengthen our human defenses against phishing, active manage our supply chain risk, adapt to AI enabled social engineering platforms, and ensure rigorous control over our cloud environment. So as we proceed to next slide, let's tie everything together. We started with digital governance challenges. We moved to puzzle pieces for board maturity. We explored threats, global rankings, and even real world attacks which had happened. And now the golden question which arises: how does a board actually know if the company is doing enough or not? And this is where governance, accountability, risk culture come together. Moving on with the next slide. Imagine cybersecurity as the organization's immune system. If it's strong, attacks gets repelled quietly. If it's weak, suddenly everyone in the boardroom is scrambling. Boards today are no longer passive observers when it comes to cyber risk. They are strategic defenders. The slide highlights four essential areas where board can create real impact. The first element is to integrate cyber risk directly into the overall business strategy and organizational culture. The board must ensure cybersecurity is woven into every major decision, from market expansion into new jurisdictions to forming crucial vendor partnerships as well. So, just to give you an example, before approving any significant new product launch or a major acquisition, the board should be asking: have we completed a security due diligence? Are the third party risk acceptable? This proactive integration is what moves us from reactive defense to strategic resilience. The second element is dimensions of cyber risk management program. Boards don't need to know every technical tool, but they need to understand risk prioritization. The board needs to evaluate how management identifies, quantifies, and mitigates the most critical risk. The third area is ensuring cyber resilience, our ability to bounce back quickly after any incident happens. So, the board must validate that incident response, disaster recovery, and crisis escalation plans are regulatory tested and that they are aligned with the disclosure requirements as well. And finally, we must critically look at ourselves, the board's own structure and capacity for effective oversight. Audit committee, tech committee, or even full board. There is no one size which fits all. What matters is, are the right set of people deeply engaged and skilled to guide cyber decisions. And now that we have grounded ourselves in what board should do, let's turn up the energy and put ourselves in the board shoes with a quick rapid fire game. So this is a quickest faster finger round game. You can type your answers in the chat for all questions at one go.
So learners, I mean, what you can do, you can put your answers together, say A, C, B, D, sort of, so that we can gauge it accordingly. So the questions are on largely who should ideally oversee cybersecurity at board level. We have discussed this aspect during the session. Which board responsibility ensures the organization can recover after attacks? Why is regulatory pressure a core board level cybersecurity challenge? When does cyber risk fail to get strategic importance? So please feel free to add in the chat box. Yeah, I can see instant in seeing CBDD. Okay. Can we have a few more answers? Yeah, saying CBDP. Okay, C. Okay, so we are aligned largely for question number 1, 2, 3. I can see there are different point of views. You are saying frequent audit and compliance update. You are saying vendor delays. Okay, interesting.
CBBD.
Okay. Mother, do you want to flash the responses?
Yes. So the correct chronology is CBBD. I will just put it on the group as well. Thank you, learners. Thanks for your participation. Let's now divert from cybersecurity into an equally powerful space influencing boardrooms today, which is
Madhura and
AI.
Shekhar, if I can just come here, just go back to the previous slide. Are these absolute answers? For example, in question 4, when you ask that when does cyber risk fail to get a strategic importance, is it an absolute answer to D? Because even, let's say, for example, for the sake of discussion,
Yeah,
when vendors manage security, that also can lead to that,
could
right?
be
I
a
mean,
reason.
just wanted to know your perspective there.
No, no, that's absolutely right, Anil, what you said. But see, how we have structured it is like what is in general we have received as a response. The larger reasons behind strategic importance is like when treated as an IT cost, not as a business value. While
Okay.
others could also be the reasons, that is what I'm completely aligned with you.
Okay, and if you could just help to understand a bit on the Q3, Shekhar, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not able to get what exactly that question is. So,
So the question is around why is regulatory pressure a core board level cybersecurity challenge? I mean, uh, what is that one reason, perhaps, when we are saying that the regulatory changes and what we were just discussing also, Anil, that the
okay, okay.
different
So it's a
regulations, why it has
regulatory
become an
changes, you
important.
mean to say? Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got it. Yeah, thanks.
yeah. Yes. Over to you, Madhura.
Sure. So before we discuss AI risk and opportunities, let's quickly jump onto this question. How much do you trust AI output in business decisions and why? Learners, all to you again. You just can mention any of your responses here. How much do you trust AI outputs in business decisions and why?
Sorry, learners. This is again one of the important aspect to cover because we have seen two extreme set of cohorts. Um, wherein like few are saying that this is completely in a no trust or low zone. At the same time, we have found people with who strongly believe that this is high or very high. So my request is if you are sure, I mean 100% on the side that it is moderate, please choose moderate. Otherwise, we really wanted to see that in which segment you really fall in terms of your understanding. Is it high, very high, or low, no trust sort of situation? And Ayush, you're right, it is circumstantial, certainly, certainly. But again, if you have to bring a thought around it, from your perspective standpoint of view, are we at a borderline, top line, low line? Where do you see? And it could be like current situation and future as well. Just think little loud and then try to give an answer here.
Frank says hi. Can machine learn? Anil says moderate. Ayush, circumstantial, low to moderate, great responses. Linguin says hi.
I
Okay.
like it. Moderate but must verify and enhance by board's input. Certainly, that's what our job is. Um, must verify. Critical. Yeah. Verification is a key. I completely echo with you guys. Perfect. Madhura, we can move on. Yeah.
Very diverse perspectives. Some of you trust AI like a reliable source, and some trust like it's like a sword swinging on the head. So your answers set up perfectly for the next segment, which is because AI trust connects directly to AI risk and governance. So this slide highlights a critical reality. AI and emerging digital risk do not operate in isolation, and therefore governance cannot function in silos either. So AI risks are not only technology risk, they are also legal and compliance risk, operational risk, reputational risk, and strategic risks. Traditionally, organizations managed IT risk with IT teams, compliance with legal, data with security, strategy with leadership. But AI breaks all these boundaries. One failure can trigger multiple risk categories at once. Hence, governance must be integrated across board and senior management, IT and cybersecurity, legal and compliance, and business and operations. Now, let's understand what AI actually is. So, AI is like a super intern, incredibly fast, learns quickly, and follows instructions very well, but sometimes makes very confident mistakes. So, artificial intelligence or AI refers to systems or algorithms designed to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as learning, reasoning, predicting outcomes, and making decisions. Unlike traditional software that follows fixed rules, AI systems learn from data, adapt over time, and improve performance with experience. From a board and governance perspective also, it's important not just to understand what AI is, but also to understand the different types of AI being used across the organizations, as each carries different risk, control, and regulatory implications. The first being narrow AI. It performs one specific task extremely well, but it does not have general intelligence or independent thinking capability. Examples include email spam filters like Gmail, fraud detection systems used by banks. The next is autonomous systems. They are designed to operate with minimal or no human intervention and make real time decisions. Examples include self driving cars, Tesla Autopilot, surveillance and delivery drones as well. Generative AI is a rapidly growing category that creates new content such as text, images, code, audio, and video. It works best on patterns learned from massive datasets. Examples include ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Adobe Firefly. Then is machine learning. It is a subset of AI that allows systems to learn from historical data and make predictions without being explicitly programmed. Examples again include credit scoring models, fraud detection algorithm, identifying abnormal transactions. And now that we know what AI is, let's look at what it gives us. So, this slide focuses on how AI creates real, measurable business value, not just as a technology tool, but as a strategic growth enabler. So, AI is like a multi tool covering four aspects. First is efficiency and automation. It is like a silent night shift worker, always on. The second is innovation and growth. AI makes entirely new business models possible. Better decision making, the real time dashboards reduce firefighting, and customer experience because it is hyper personalized, frictionless services for customers like us. So, with benefits of AI, there are multiple emerging risks from AI as well. So, we have seen how AI creates massive value. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin, the risk. As AI grows at lightning speed across industries, the risks are growing just as fast, sometimes even faster than our controls. The first is data privacy and security risk. AI runs on data and not just any data, it runs on our data. AI system collect, process and analyze massive volumes of personal, sensitive and confidential data. Data breaches, unauthorized access, regulatory penalties, loss of stakeholder trust are some of the risks associated with AI. The second is lack of transparency, the black box problem. Many AI models work like the black box. We see the output, but we don't clearly understand how the decision was made. This creates serious risks such as hidden bias, discrimination, wrong decisions with no accountability, and difficulty in audits and even regulatory justification. The third is dependence on AI. So, AI is a great assistant, but it was never meant to replace human judgment completely. Overdependence on AI can lead to reduced critical thinking, loss of human creativity, blind trust in machine outputs, and the danger is not when AI makes mistakes. The real danger is when humans stop questioning those mistakes. The fourth is regulatory challenges. Technology moves at startup speed, regulation moves at a government speed. We all know that. So, AI raises complex questions around liability. Who is responsible for AI mistakes? Ownership of AI generated content, intellectual property rights. So, the message is very simple: AI risk is no longer an IT issue, it's a business risk, a legal risk, a reputational risk, and most importantly, a board level risk. And that is why AI governance, oversight, and ethical controls are no longer optional, they are essential. So, if the risks are rising, what do boards actually do? Let's look at the responsibilities of the board in the next slide. Boards don't need to code, they need to ask powerful questions. Up to now, we have seen what AI is, the value it brings, and the risk it creates. Now comes the most important question. So, who is actually in charge of steering this AI ship? The answer is very simple: the board. These six pillars define how boards move from passive observers to active AI governors. The first is strategic oversight. The question the board should ask is, are we using AI for the right reasons? The board's first job is to ensure AI aligns with the business goals, it fits with the risk appetite, and AI adoption is intentional and not impulsive. The second is risk and compliance oversight, which is the safety net. The board must ensure that AI risks are identified, monitored, and audited. Strong controls and documentation exist along with full regulatory compliance and is always maintained as well. Third is ethics and governance, which is the moral compass. AI can be intelligent, but it has no conscience, and that's the board's job. So, the responsibilities here include defining ethical AI principles, ensuring transparency and explainability, maintaining human in the loop for critical decisions. The fourth is talent and capability building, the people side of AI. Here, the board must ensure leadership has AI literacy, employees are upskilled and not sidelined, a responsible use culture is built, and that is how AI becomes an empowerment tool and not a fear factor. The fifth is technology and investment oversight. Are we buying smart? AI spending is not an IT spending, it is a strategic investment. Here, the board must review the AI tools and vendors, the third party risk exposure, the cybersecurity and privacy strength. Because one weak vendor today can become tomorrow's front page breach headline as well. Sixth is crisis preparedness when AI goes wrong. The real test of governance is not when things work, but when they break. So the boards must ensure that early detection of AI incidents are specific to the board's specific regulatory management as well. The goal is not perfect AI, the goal is rapid, controlled recovery when failure happens. We have seen principles. Now let's look at real world cases where AI has went wrong.
Sorry. Before we move on to the
Yeah.
next slide, I really wanted to spend a couple of minutes on this particular slide. It is very important because, again, learners from a board perspective, again, a quick reflection here. When we're speaking with a couple of board members, leaders, there's one reflection what we got is like, okay, this is quite insightful that, look, we need to be careful of these five or six aspects. Largely, if I say, there are few which are always being in the knowledge. Say we need to have a strategic oversight in place. We need to have a culture, a system of ethics and governance in place. There are regulatory elements perhaps which we need to be mindful of. The few budding one is like around where we have to be more cautious, careful when spending and deciding on technology and investment oversight. That is the critical one. A lot more attraction we are getting in and around when we talk about talent and capability building, because while one way we are saying that okay, these tool technology are going to help us ease up our way of working and bring more efficiency and standardization and so on and so forth, but at the same time we would need those right talent also in our organization in terms of who is the right talent running those technology platforms and solutions for us. So that's again one of the area where we have seen a lot of attraction conversations that while we have thought we have looked at it more from a tech side, but from a talent side it is still something which is what perhaps we might need to think more. Then on the crisis preparedness, the backup plans, disaster management, so on and so forth, has always been on the table and it is being witnessed across industries. But is it something really required to be reviewed from a AI standpoint of view? The whole involvement of, as Madhura was also mentioning, a lot of personal data being getting shared. It's a machine learning system wherein like what you are instructing is again somewhere is getting stored, and there could be a certain a unique sort of crisis which might come up, and we are hearing those newses day in day out, like when it talks about AI and its ripple effects. So a quick reflection here is, while few of the aspects could be quite traditional and known to you guys, but at the same time it is important that we understand and deliberate on aspects like talent, technology oversight, crisis preparedness, and the granular parts of it. So I'll take a pause here. I just wanted to give a quick teaser that this is what we are witnessing. But if any one of you would want to share any thoughts that in terms of preparedness or anything else, perhaps I would be happy to hear from you. Yes, Anil.
No, so Shekhar, not a question, but I think just a bit of a reflection here and an observation. On a point number six, on a crisis preparedness, to me it looks like still a kind of a reactive response, because there would be crisis in case if we don't have these policies and measures in place. So instead of a crisis, should it be a business continuity plan and its monitoring, Shaker, from the AI and cyber security perspective? Because I think that encompasses the entire spectrum, probably what we are discussing right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. BCP is always there as a backbone. Without BCP, if you are operating, then again, I have bigger concerns then. What we meant to say from crisis preparedness is that something which is completely unforeseeable. And in this today's uh, era where, I mean, the things are evolving with a rapid speed, and at the same time, every other day we are witnessing a new version of. In the chat box also we were talking about ethical AI. That's a new version of AI being launched. We are really unsure that what would be tomorrow of this AI in terms of when we are really going to implement those ethical AIs. Is it something we can really rely, or it is still there's a part of hallucination which is what causing a lot of concern in different forms and shapes. So those things are really not ascertainable, and that's the reason what what we are witnessing that as a board, the directors would want to spend more time, while BCP, disaster management, all is there, certainly is there, but at the same time they still wanted to spend more time on those unforeseen crises, which is what, again, we have to go one level deeper and try identifying that what could be that one thing or two things which can come in, uh, which can impact your operations, your entity, your organization, your people. So that is the whole purpose of bringing this crisis preparedness part here.
Okay. And one more thing, Shekhar, is that of course you talked about in the previous slide on the efficiency part of it. So, in my view, I think the efficiency and competitiveness also will play an important role, because
Yeah,
in the organization, the discussion is also about a dilemma whether we should really go ahead with an AI or not. Because
yeah,
if we don't do it, somebody else will do it, our competition will do it, and probably there we lose an
yeah.
efficiency advantage, right? So I think that's also a dilemma, probably has a merit in the entire discussion as well.
Agree. 100% I agree, Anil. And in fact, I wanted to give one more reflection to it. It is not only from a competition standpoint of view, somewhere this efficiency is linked up to your talent pool also. Because,
Hmm.
I mean, companies are really struggling at which level of talent pool we are really required to create in. I mean, I mean, it could be if I look at it from a pyramid standpoint of view, our baseline is completely going to be ramped up with one or other form of AI tool. Then a middle layer could have a certain level of impact, which is what in today's era, I would say some 30-40%, but it is eventually going to get impacted a little extra also. Top layer is, as of now, has a very different impact, which is more on the strategic part of it. But then the challenge is again from a perspective that if I completely remove my base layer from a pyramid, um, and build some AI tools around it and more from a operations and efficiency standpoint of view, how exactly I'm going to create a next layer of middle, I mean, next set of middle layer for us, that is going to be a bigger challenge. So the talent piece is again linked up to efficiency, and AI is throwing a lot of challenges around it.
No, I agree with you, Shekhar, completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I'm just adding one example, which you're discussing, Shikhar and in both. The talent and capability building, it's so important that recently we covered one news about this Indian company, TCS,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they have taken out some 12,000 employees. And the base has been given is that they were not AI ready,
Yeah.
and in fact Amazon also has taken out a lot of people, and later on they have employed also certain other kind of a people who are AI literate. So
Yeah.
this is such a I don't know, like maybe in between we are somewhere in the moderate, like
Yeah.
we
That's true.
want to accept the fact the strategies is to embrace the technology, and on the other
Yeah.
hand the pool that we have, they are not fully equipped to the things. So this churning and adding, then churning, adding, it's a
Yeah.
different, I think it's a very important part that the board management must be going through these days.
Correct. Completely agree, Seema. And in fact, we were having conversation in previous cohort that this bubble may have a different color altogether. I mean, the moment it burst, today we are struggling, as you rightly said, the incoming, outgoing of the talent pool, and at the end, when we talk about sources, also there are certain common sources which is being tapped by different players in the market. Now, the capability of those source itself, I mean, this I'm more talking about from a demand and supply standpoint of view. Today, the demand is quite high, supply is again getting matched, government is also working around it. But tomorrow, it may happen that there's a huge demand, no supply, or it could happen that we supply side we are so strong that we have built in that capabilities and all of that, but the demand is completely shift because we don't have that layer being created. So that dilemma is there on the demand and supply side as well as talent pool side, and that's the reason I said this pillar number 4 is quite critical, very important, because other aspects are still being we have a lot of experience in and around, and this has been witnessed in couple of scenarios, but this pool is quite emerging, and you as a board member is definitely required to spend more time around it.
Indeed. Yes.
Thank you, Madhura. Yes, over to you.
Quickly, learners, I'll just, we can have four concrete cases where AI went wrong. The first is a digital education platform where the platform was used for an algorithm to filter applicants, but it was designed using criteria that unfairly screened out older candidates. So the lesson here is uncontrolled algorithms can lead to illegal discrimination. Similarly, for an airline industry chatbot error, there was a specific discount which was not given to a customer, and the court ruled that the airline was responsible for the chatbot's mistake. Technology industry, again, there was another case where a system was meant to streamline hiring for tech roles and was automatically downgrading applications from women. So this was something because the system was trained to do this historically basis the hiring data. The result was a discriminatory outcome, forcing the company to withdraw the automated model entirely. Again, a video conferencing platform case had happened where the platform updated its terms of service to allow allow using user content for AI training, sparking immediate privacy concerns. So, what do these four distinct failures teach us? The first is human accountability is essential. Second, biased data leads to discriminatory outcomes. Third, transparency and consent are critical. And final lesson, visible in all cases, is the poor AI governance. So it doesn't just cost money; it results in legal challenges, reputational damage, and financial losses. Now it's time for a fun wrap up activity. I would request Yoshita to just put the answers as well on the chat box. So, since we are running out of time.
So it's more a reflection, learners. Like when we say AI always makes accurate decisions without errors, we know what is the answer. Board must ensure AI aligns with strategy and risk appetite. That is true. AI can help automate routine tasks and reduce cost. That is fairly true. AI systems never collect personal data. I mean, there are claims, but that's a myth, clearly. Ransomware attacks can exploit AI system. That is again true. So it's a quick reflection. I believe we have covered these aspects in detail during the session. So just a reflection of that in front of you.
Sure. I would like to thank each one of you for your energy and your insights. This worked only because you made it interactive. As we go on to the next phase, I would hand over it to Shekhar and the team.
Thank you, Madhura. Thank you so much. So, learners, we are at top of the hour, but intentionally wanted to spend a little more time on the digital transformation part because this is, as I said, this is quite emerging, and we are hearing a lot in and around, and it is good to share those experiences, perspective for the larger outcome. So, I hope that was helpful, and it might be useful for your day-to-day functioning. But let's spend a little more time, maybe next 20 minutes or so, on the M&A strategy part, which is what the second part of our today's conversation. As I said, when I started the conversation, the first part was the digital transformation, second is traditional transformation. In the next couple of slides, what we're gonna cover quickly for you is like on the traditional side, whenever we hear this term M&A, okay, it's sort of a merger and acquisition. There could be different colors and shapes of having those M&A transaction with certain objectives also in mind. So in next subsequent slide, what we really gonna cover is like what are those different forms and shapes of M&A transaction which are prevalent. What are those top 5 6 things you need to keep in mind when you are deciding on those M&A strategy? What kind of outputs typically we have witnessed that it comes from the M&A strategies, um, and the possible safeguards perhaps which you have to have in mind when you are deciding on those things. So that is something in the story in next couple of slides. I'll hand it over to Kirat to quickly take you through with that. I'm there to pitch in with the live cases and the experiences what we are having in terms of I mean dealing with different folks. So that I'll keep adding in. But over to you, Kirat, to just start with those options of the M&A framework and the ecosystem.
Thank you, Shikhar, and thank you, Madhura, for those insightful perspectives on digital governance and AI. So let's now shift to the quickly to the second pillar of today's session, that is the board's role in M&A. I understand that many of you have already contributed to some part of a corporate restructuring, whether as a finance manager or leader or board member. But seeing M&A through the lens of a board member is a very different perspective. At board level, the responsibility goes beyond just looking at the numbers and signing approvals. It is very important to ensure that every M&A transaction genuinely aligns with the long-term strategy for both companies, and also the risk related to that transaction are fully understood and acceptable. So, with that foundation, let's dig deeper into how boards can effectively navigate through these areas and truly drive value in M&A. So, corporate restructuring is not just about doing a deal and closing a deal, it's about choosing the right instrument and right starting point for any transaction. So, as we move to each tool, as mentioned on your slides, it is important. Let's understand like how we choose the right instrument, and you can drop any examples that you may relate from all of the tools. At one end, we have the classic merger and amalgamation, as we all know, two or more entities formally combining into single entity, either by creating a new company or by absorbing the other. Just for instance, like in financial services industry, a good example would be a merger of two banks, where one institution has a strong retail banking franchise and the other has particular strengths in, say, investment banking or asset management. So by coming together, they can cross sell their products and reduce any overlapping cost or platforms. Similarly, we have demergers, the reverse move, where a single business is broken up into different components, or it can be sold or spun out. This is often less glamorous, but in practice, some of the biggest value creation we see in markets come from well executed demergers. For example, a large retail chain could demerge its online grocery delivery arm into a separate company, allowing it to build its own logistics or partnerships. Similarly, we have the slum sale route, where an entire undertaking or an operating business is transferred on a ongoing concern basis. That's typically used when we want a clean exit from a business line. We also have joint ventures, one of the most common arrangements where two or more parties pool resources for one specific task or one specific project. On paper, they may look like that best of both worlds, but in practice, it's a live or die situation. For example, in pharmaceutical industries, companies often form joint ventures to develop new drugs or share their R&D resources and cost. So, for example, during COVID times, many of the JVs collaborated and uh, came together with projects on new drugs helping the people. And similarly, we have, last but not the least, the share sales, selling all or the part of the shareholding or itemized asset sales as well, where we carve out some of the specific assets with the same economic intent of transferring the value, but very different implications in terms of tax or, say, execution. So each of these approaches have very different implications. But before we get to should we do a deal, the first question that should come to our mind is which is the right instrument from all the toolkits that you can see on your screen. For we have to choose between merger or slump sale or asset as a strategic choice for the company. And this highlights that why selecting the appropriate M&A approach is very important. It leads to our one of the key question, that how do we determine which opportunities genuinely merit the companies in terms of investment, in terms of time, focus, and resources. So once we recognize that M&A functions as a toolkit, the next question becomes when it is actually worth deploying it. At a high level, all the purposes are familiar, but for a board of member, they need to be sharpened. For example, first is the that acquisitions are pursued to accelerate growth or enter new markets more quickly. Expanding, say for example, expanding into a new geography or segment organically can take many years, but acquiring an established player in the market that is already in the market can compress the timeline dramatically. But the board must also look beyond just the speed advantage or time advantage and ask whether the execution will genuinely help the company and strengthen the company's long term position. In other cases, we also have that M&A is used to reinforce the competitive standing of the company. Companies may consolidate their market share, improve their bargaining power, or remove any competitor from the landscape. Increasingly, acquisitions are also driven by the need to access the technology and innovation and intellectual property. As per the insights, 60 to 65% of the M&As are undertaken under this head as of now for the last couple of years under the head technology and innovation. There's also one more lens of risk, that is the diversification of risk. This will help reduce the overexposure to a single market or customer segment. We have deals driven by the talent acquisition and human capital enhancement also. Then we have the classic rationale, that is synergies and cost efficiencies, where we expect better procurement and rationalized overheads. At our level, the key question is not how big is the synergy number, and I must say that according to our experience, this is the one of the most important benefit that a company looks while going for an corporate restructuring or an M&A. We also have some other important reasons for M&A, like transformation and strategic restructuring. These are in the terms of existing sunset business or tech enabled models, or even reshaping the complete portfolio of the company to around the higher margin or higher growth areas. And additionally, we also have financial advantages and tax benefits that are also the part of the picture, which helps us optimize the capital structure by using the tax shield and unlooking the trapped value of the company. But yes, as a board, we should see tax only as an amplifier of a good strategic idea, but not the primary reason to do a transaction.
So
Moving,
just
yeah.
just a moment, Kegat. Maybe we can spend a few minutes on this particular slide. So learners, I mean, so these are the typical purposes for which any M&A transaction usually gets structured. Um, Again, from my experience standpoint of view, there could be one or other reasons, perhaps could be a combination for a successful M&A transaction. Um, a deal which actually brings synergies can also lead to, say, some sort of a tax benefits. At the same time, a restructuring purely from strengthening the competitive position help in diversifying the risk also. So there are many examples available in the public domain too. But what we wanted to just highlight before you is that these are top 10 reasons, purposes for any M&A transactions. um, uh, More recently, as Kirat also touched upon this topic, that we have seen the access to technology, innovation, and IP has become quite a common reasons to lead lot of new generation lead deals. While there are other things also parallelly, but things like technology access, talent acquisition, these has become a new gen tool for the leading M&A transactions. But at the same time, there are other reasons also, the purposes also, which is what companies are trying to achieve with a successful M&A deals. So that's a quick reflection of different purposes which are available and being mentioned in different schemes being presented before the authorities.
Thank you, Shikhar.
Yeah,
So, if we can move to the next slide, Yoshita. Yeah, thank you. So we have a quick pulse check here. We definitely want to know from you, like how many of you have actually been through a M&A, or even if you have not, from your perspective, looking at the different purposes we just discussed and Shaker also highlighted, which two of all these do you think are most commonly used and most valid purposes for M&A? We can go to the earlier slide, Yoshida, to have some references for the learners and they can share their insights.
so maybe I'll tweak this question a little bit, Kegat. It is more like in your experience, what do you think? As I mentioned, for me, it's like technology and talent could be the top priority, which I'm witnessing. But in your sector, in your domain, in your organization, what is your experience? Like, what are those top two reasons perhaps you are witnessing for any sort of M&A deals? I can see Anil saying technology and market expansion. Yes, that is there. But anything else also comes to your mind, or any other reason also which you have witnessed perhaps from your experience standpoint of view? Amod is saying technology. Yeah, it's true. I know we're on top of the hour, but just a request if you can, yeah,
Yeah,
have this.
I believe. Yeah, I believe that accelerated growth and market expansion is something. I'll just give you one simple example of my company. So we are a legacy media channel, and we have lot of magazines and multiple media things we do cover it. Uh,
Yeah,
what we can consider, if I apply, this is the first time that I'm thinking like this. Maybe the first one, accelerated growth and the market expansion, should be the one, because we want to certainly explore the media legacy brands outside India. So in that
yeah,
case, I would say the market expansion should be the first thing that will help me get the second one, strengthening competitive positions. Because I can
yeah.
arrive on the competitive position if I will have a market expansion in the area outside my country. So, comes to my example, this works better at this point of time.
Sure, Seema. So I just want to give a quick takeaway here that while you said accelerated growth and market expansion would be on top of your list when deciding on any M&A transaction, but my request would be that as in when you are deciding on those matters, perhaps try looking at the other benefits also, because it is not that only one benefit which is what we need to drive from M&A transactions. Just see, and again, it is more from an option analysis standpoint of view. If I am looking for inorganic growth, which is what giving me a market expansion, and at the same time, I'm getting an add-on of a technology, or say I'm getting a complete transformation of a particular segment of my business. It all depends on various factors, but the point here is just try applying the different parameters also, and then decide on like which one is the best option perhaps we should really be looking for.
Yeah, sure, sure. I will certainly try to implement others also. Maybe some part
Yeah,
that I need to work on that way.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. So Kirat, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah.
Yes. So, moving forward, let's examine some of the key criteria and indicators that can drive a successful acquisition. So, this is the framework that is particularly useful for the directors who can consider these options and these criteria and indicators that can ensure that every potential target aligns strategically, operationally, and even culturally within the organizations. So if we see, like, for the first option, we have the first consideration that we have is the preferred size and scale and industry. Like, this can help us to understand if we want to go for a small or innovative company, or if we are looking for a large or established player. Second is the location and geographic factors. This helps us to understand who is the target, which market does it serves, or say what are the geopolitical or regulatory logistic risks that are aligned, especially in the times of war. Thirdly, we have the technical expertise and skills and operational capability. This helps us to understand. This also includes understand the skills that we can obtain from the other company as well. Then we have the ownership structure. This help us to understand if we want a promoter driven company or privately equity owned company, or say a family business as well, that can have the succession and other factors that we must handle. So if we similarly, we also have another factors on the other hand, that are the market coverage and distribution channels. So this helps us to understand that how are the distribution relationships of the company, of both the companies, and how well they align. Next, we have is the customer type and the profile, that helps us whether they are B2B or B2C, and which segments they serve as, or which quality and safety perspectives they have on industry specific approvals they have, and do they align with both of the companies, or do they have to take more license and approvals in that case. Next, we have is today's essential, like ESG and sustainability, and also the diversity and inclusion expectations. If we acquire a business that is weak on environmental practices in today's time, that's a big risk. and because at some day it will definitely translate to a regulatory risk in the upcoming times. And finally, if we look some other strategic fit factors, that are the brand strength and digital maturity and the critical licenses of the company. So these are just some of the factors that we have listed down. There can be another factors that we can consider while targeting or selecting any company for the acquisition. So you may take any references from that. But by staying curious, asking the hard questions, and focusing on the right fit rather than just the opportunity, anyone of you can help the company or lead the company to close a very beneficial or a fit deal. Moving forward, we yeah. So moving forward, we have the strategic role of the board in approving or integrating M&A. Typically, by the time a transaction comes to the board, management already has a clear favorite. I prefer this entity, I prefer this is better, but the narrative is very compelling. The target, which will give us faster growth, stronger competitive position, new technology, and some diversification and mitigation of risk. That will be the perfect fit for the company, and it is the duty of the board to ensure and check whether the strategic roles of both the company are aligned.
Sorry,
So
Giga, sorry to interject here. Just one point, learners, because this slide is again quite powerful slide, because this is something as a takeaway from perspective that what you as a board member must ensure. See, again, from our experience, things like strategic fit, value creation, risk governance, and all of that remains common. And what we are witnessing, board members generally take care of all of that directly or indirectly through lawyers and the CXO layers. But I mean, in the recent past, what we are witnessing, things like cultural compatibility, that is also being one of the most important aspect being witnessed during any successful M&A transactions, because many of the time aspects of cultural compatibility have not been really recognized when finalizing the deals. So the quick takeaway on this slide would be, while cognizant of this fact that we should be careful about strategic fit, value creation, risk governance, integration readiness, cultural compatibility is something we should definitely be mindful of. And there are no benchmarks of cultural compatibilities, Seema. But the thing is, like, I mean, a check on it is important. And I'll give you example wherein, like, we were dealing with a transaction where one set of organization was having a policy, such a robust policy framework for all their employees in terms of the benefits what they extend, in terms of the value what they create, and in terms of the long term plans what they have for the senior leadership. At the same time, when the acquisition has happened, the global acquirer has a very different policies in place, and which resulted into, when we were actually doing the whole business reorganization for them, uh, apart from that deal and all what is being done globally, when we actually get into the nitty gritty of implementing that deal at an India level, I mean, there were actually nightmares that because of the cultural incompatibility, the deal was not successful. And it actually went in holes, say that because of these reasons, because at the end it was a cost plus entity, and the people was the asset for that particular entity. And if we are not able to have that cultural compatibility in place, perhaps we are losing on the major part of it. So I'm just giving an example. There are many more examples in and around cultural compatibility, and that's the reason we wanted to stress upon this aspect, that things like cultural compatibility has become have taken a seat top of the chart, that these are important one. And when we are looking at, as a board member, deciding on M&A transactions, these 5 or 6 headers which are there on the screen perhaps are very important, and you should be mindful of all of them. Yeah, thank you.
thank you, Shekhar. I think Shekhar summarized all of these strategic rules in one go, so we can move forward. So, yes, we have a quick question here for all of you. Let's take a moment to put our thinking caps and understand if we are conducting a due diligence of a merger, what three categories or factors must be assessed as a board member. So, you have some hints: financial, reputational, compliance, governance, profitability, stakeholder investments. You can share your answers. Any top two or any top three that you think?
Compliance, governance, and financial. Don't forget to include technology. Don't forget to include aspects of cultural compatibility. Don't forget to include aspects of the external regulatory frameworks. All of that are really important to get included. Perfect.
Yes. So
Is this
all
the
of you.
last activity, Kigat, for
Yes.
the day? Okay, great.
Yes.
Great.
So
Thank you.
so all of your answers are well taken. We have majorly covered all that you have mentioned, that the three factors that we consider are the financial factor, the compliance factor, and the governance factor. And on the financial side, we focus on building how solid and sustainable the revenues, the cash flows of the company are, what is the valuation, what are the price that we are paying, if that is sensible or not, how much part of debt and how much part of liability we are taking on consideration, what are the future expected synergies that can help genuinely the and support the shareholder value and earnings after the merger. Of course, this is very important part of the M&A. From a compliance and regulatory perspective, we pay attention to key approvals that the deals require that are required during the deals. Any significant litigations or tax exposures or regulatory notices should be considered while undergoing any corporate restructuring. Data protection, cybersecurity, and other core compliances should also be taken care while including any contracts or with the customers, vendors, and including any other stakeholders. On the governance and control standpoint, we have to look at the combined board and leadership, that it should be structured. There should be no related party conflicts. There should be no conflicts of interest in the company. And the strength of the internal controls should be strong. There should be complete risk mitigation and management strategies. And we should make sure that how the decision making authority and governance will work in the merged entity. And as Shikhar clearly mentioned, that these are just the top three broad heads, and we also have another heads like the technology standpoint, the strategic standpoint, and the reputational standpoint. So all of that are also well taken. And the way we think about it is that the merger should stand up financially, it should be clean, it should be manageable, and it should be governed in a way that allows the combined business to execute and create value over the long term. Yeah. So these are
Um,
just, yeah.
Yeah, these are more few case studies, learners, which perhaps more for your information that we witness live cases where there are certain challenges being faced, more around the topics what we were just discussing. It could be around data protection, it could be regulatory scrutiny, data privacy, operational complexities. The key takeaway is again going back to the fundamentals of this whole session, that you bring that governance layer in place, which has policies, SOPs, structures, and all of that, that helps you in driving those M&A stories successfully. And the four or five pillars which we were just discussing, those are the one which are important one. And that's a quick reflection of the things what we have jotted down for you, that how it is being presented in live cases also. So two of the cases are there on the screen for your reference. This is more informative. Perhaps you can have a look at it, and if there are anything, perhaps we can spend more time around it.
Think we are good to go for today's Shikhar.
Thank you, Kiran. Great. Thank you so much, learners, for your effective participation today. And again, once again, my sincere apologies for not giving a heads up of this conversation, but we're gonna speak more in our upcoming sessions. I look forward to have more interactions, share your experiences, insights, and we are there to support, sharing our thoughts and the experiences what we carry with us. So team is here, all geared up to support you and help you in this journey. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Shekhar.
Thank
I
you,
have
everyone.
one quick
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, Nimish, yes.
Yeah, Shekhar, is there an assignment or something that we need to do with regards to this whole course?
It will be at the end of the program, Nimish.